And we are back. Felt that should explain a bit regarding Yohanan and the topic of Yahshua's main concern, himself being the vine. We know that he is the vine of truth and the vine of the true of life. So there is also an understanding that comes with this part regarding then the nearing spiritual line set in Shavuot. It is truly important understanding this part, starting in the first verse. He said of himself that he is the vine of truth, and we know that from him comes life, the life of the Word, because the Torah became the living Torah. A living Torah, it relates to life, and he was the very person that was the first of becoming the person tested in entire Torah, of the first half of the Torah, first half of the prophets. And then we understand also that he is the truth. Consequently, he became then the vine of truth of life. And he states, and my Father is the cultivator. So then every branch, there is the goys that would come in the future and grafted in his vine. Then there is on me that does not bear fruit, he takes it away. So the understanding of this, he was pointing out to the future based upon what was in the past. Who was the Father, the cultivator? He was himself that was in the temple. As long as the people, they were obedient, they were receiving from the cultivator, the line of life. So then there was no change when grace came and was imputed in the Torah. Then the Father is the cultivator. Every branch that is on me or grafted in the vine does not produce fruit, he takes it away. And then those that do bear fruit, he prunes. He takes care of them and he refines them that it might bear more fruit. You are already pruned because of the word that you heard from me. So then abide in me and myself in you, and the branch is not able to produce fruit by itself. So watch, for instance, the goys outside of the camp trying to do church on their own. What do they produce? Junk. They don't produce any fruit. And this is precisely what Yahshua is saying. There is a step of formation, or then steps of formation after the understanding of the first step. He is the vine of the truth of life and came from the camp. So then a person may ask, so then whatsoever people are doing outside the camp has no validity, other than they coming together and sharing their faiths? No, there is no validity in what they do. This is what Yahshua is saying. If they are not abiding in him as the life giver, because he is the vine of the truth, and then the Father the cultivator, if they do on their own, doesn't produce any fruit. It produces confusion, stupidity, plus they have a twisted word of the living God, and they don't produce any fruit. They are, imagine branches from plant walking around. This is what they are. They are absolute with no direction. Branches walking around. And then what Yahshua is also explaining is, later then, as the understanding of the branches in a vine, what would be the condition of a branch? When a branch is grafted into the plant, it remains quietly. It doesn't interfere with the world. And this is the understanding from it, because we understand that Yahshua was preparing his people. First, the people involved, the disciples, they would become shilishim, and they would teach them the relink related with the goys, so then the goys would be relinked because of the broken spirit from Adam. Then they would link themselves with the spiritual line set in Shavuot, and then these means that they would be grafted in the vine. And then those branches, they are quietly learning, quietly in His presence, and they don't mix themselves with the world. So this is the understanding that is so profound in this particular portion of the scriptures. And then it states, likewise, you are also not able to produce fruit if you do not abide in me. Myself, as you understand, is the plant, the vine, and you are the branches. So then in the future, when the people would come from the world as slaves of the world, and there is a similitude of what the Creator did to the nation when He brought them out of Egypt, then He brought them out in a miraculous way. He was the true Elohim, and He gave them His laws. From there they went to the promised land. And then there they had a tabernacle set, and then the 12 tribes, and then the perimeter. And then for 1,000 years they were being trained. More than 1,000 years, in fact. Because later would have a shadow of these in the future. Because a portion of the scriptures, the first half of the Torah, first half of the prophets, those were going to be completed. So then would be going to the other phase. Then they themselves, from the people of Israel, after the training, they would be doing what the Creator did for them. They would be rescuing the people out of the world in slavery. So then we understand that the second part, the government of the kingdom to come, is another part that is extremely important, because what does it give the understanding? The understanding is the goys, or those that are grafted in the vine, they should not be talking of governments of the world, but reserve this area and simply point out for them to go to the camp and wait at the gate. So they do not interfere with the work of the kingdom to come. Because only the kingdom to come people trained and functioned, only they are able to give relevant answers. So then doesn't cause confusion. Why? Because comes from the Creator through His people, and then from there they teach then those people outside of the camp. So this is also what it means of being grafted in a vine. The branches in a vine, they don't interfere. They only point, go to the gate and wait there for instructions. This is as far as we can go. And then when we get together as people of the faith, we only share amongst us what Yahshua did. Reminding the scriptures, reminding of the Torah grace, reminding of what He taught, and then encouraging each other in these words. And obviously what Shaul taught. But we don't teach this to the people because the goys, they are not functioned, they are not qualified. And they don't give any opinion regarding governments. This area is secured only for those of the camp. Only those from the camp, they have the solid understanding of what they should be doing, because it comes from the Creator. It doesn't even come from themselves. And this is what Shaul was explaining later. In Romans, the chapter regarding this topic, Shaul was very explicit. He did explain very plainly. And can truly observe this and being comforted with this fact. So then in Romans it states, let every soul be subjected to the authorities of the government of the kingdom to come people. For there is no authority that is not from Elohim. He refers to the authority of the camp. There is no other authority outside of the camp that can be above the authority given by Elohim. So then, any person that comes against this authority then should not be heard. So then we begin to understand the positions and then the importance of the people of the camp. We understand these people to be only the qualified people to give direction to those outside coming in with their problems, and not the goys. The goys, they don't get mixed with them. Point them to the camp. Simply point them to the camp. If a person is lost and wants to be saved, find the nearest camp. This is what should be doing in an original plan. So then we understand what goes on with it, so we position ourselves as we were meant to be at. And we don't give any opinions regarding governments, we don't give any opinion regarding the authorities or any of it. We simply share our faiths when we come together. And that's why there are qualified teachers at the camp. Those teachers, they teach them the way of salvation. So then makes what Yahshua said proper. You are the branches. Branches are quietly placed in a vine. They don't make any confusion, they don't make any alarms, they don't make any trouble. They only stay there and they are quietly having the nourishment coming from the vine. During the time of Shaul, this is what he did, because we don't have any kind of a pointing of what to do in government. What did he do? He pointed them to the camp. Because kingdom to come does not mean the relink. Kingdom has to do with government. And the relinking is what Yahshua taught. Relinking and then government. But those are separated. Yes, he would say he would make them priests and kings, but know the context of it. He himself, Yahshua, when they tried to make him king, what did he do? What Yahshua did do? He fled away, went to the mountain to pray. He did not want to be involved. But was he not the king? Why didn't he involve himself? He couldn't. Wasn't his purpose. So as the shadow of what he did would be in the future. So then the kingdom to come is a situation, and then the relink is another. And both topics, the relink and the kingdom to come, government, those should not be taught by the goys. The goys, they merely share their faiths. And then whatsoever is beyond these, they point to the camp, go to the camp. They have teachers there, they have people qualified in Ruach HaKodesh that can give you direction. And that's as far as it goes. And then resume their duties. They are mainly the service people. And then when they come together for a gathering, then they share their faiths. Simply what Yahshua did for them and what they are learning from the teachings of Yahshua. But they don't teach each other, they only share. They share their faiths. Because they are being made tzaddik yet. But they are not qualified. They are not qualified to answer any questions. Point them to the camp. So then we begin to understand what it means. And then of course by doing these, then we produce fruit. And makes the words of Yahshua more alive and ready to produce fruit. So then we understand our part in our world, and we understand we should never be involved with the politics, with the junky authorities of the world. It's not our part. We do our service to Elohim and let Him do the rest. And our part is point to the camp, that people in the camp, they can answer any questions, because those are qualified. They are under the authority of Elohim himself. So then in Romans, then Shaul, he makes it very plain and very clear, because let every soul be subjected to the authorities of the kingdom to come. He's not saying be subjected to the people that are only doing the relink. That was obvious. What is that the relink has to do with the government to come? Government. Simply government. Because what Shaul then was teaching in terms of the relink, they would be simply relinked, and then the spirit that was broken during Adam, and then they would link themselves with the spiritual line set in Shavuot, and then obviously from there it doesn't have any relation with the government to come, because their function would be grafted in the vine and being quietly there. There is no reason for kingdom to come in this context. But then when the people, they were coming from the outside, from other nations, to ask them what to do, then let every soul be subjected to the authorities of the kingdom to come, people. So then the people of the kingdom to come can hear their problems and they can receive direction, because there is no authority that is not from Elohim. Why would he be mixing the authority of Elohim and then mixed with the peoples and authorities, and then only teaching the relink? It wouldn't make sense. So this is the portion that states, let every soul be subjected to the authorities of the kingdom of Elohim and the kingdom to come, because there is no other authority outside that can be above. And some of those people from other nations, they were coming and they trying to lord it over them. And Shaul warned them, don't do this. Be subjected to the authorities of the kingdom to come camp. So then it started making more sense. Because any person that is against the establishment of Elohim, then this person is judged. Because they came from a judged status, and to the judged status then they should return. They are judged. And then he also mentions for his people to set apart from the camp, not to be involved with those from the outside government, because then they would be judged as they are judged. And then there is also a portion of it stating, then if you do, then he would then judge themselves, and there is no sacrifice that can be made on their behalf, because they knowingly then are destroying what they learned. So Shaul, he's simply saying, make sure you understand your position as the camp. You are the authority of the government of the kingdom to come, set by Elohim, and then you should teach others. And then the guys outside servicing, they merely share their faiths. Not above, not below. No goy coming from the outside or from a person that never heard of the relink would come amongst the goys. No, pointed them to the camp. Don't lead into prayer. Don't do any action other than pointing to the camp. So then the portions related with the kingdom to come people and the camp, then it's becoming intact. and the rest, they only share their faiths. So then, much more coming up. Please stay tuned.